Pretty isn't pretty. Who am I? All of that will be explained as we go forward. First, I want to talk about knowledge versus recitation. The Dogon, which is a group of people on the continent of Africa, and you just have to, understanding history, know that the continent, Africa, at one time was filled with the information and knowledge of the world. They say the Dogon, who have classified everything, they knew about everything. They knew about stars that people hadn't even heard of. So that information, they credit it to the Dogon, but all of the tribes over in Africa, the knowledge was just there. That's where the information was. So what was left in the hands. It's just vestiges of it left all over the continent, okay? So the Dogon classified learning in these 4 stages, and we're gonna understand this. The first they call Giriso. And Giriso is just the first level of knowledge. It's like when you first just start to learn the words. And even babies can do that. You just repeat the words, right? Giriso. And you can repeat that just to get it, Giriso. And then there's Beniso. They call it word on the side, but that don't really have meaning to us. But Beniso includes the words, and now we're gonna put the meanings with the words. And we understand the words, we can say them, and we know what they mean. Boliso is going a little deeper. Now each stage builds on the other one and adds more information on top of it, okay? Beniso or Boliso, you start to know the words, understanding. You understand yourself, you understand the planet. You start putting things together, what we call synthesizing, making sense of the world. Sodaye. Sodaye. Everybody say that with me. Sodaye. That's not many people get to Sodaye. That is clear understanding of things, how they operate. That's when you can see straight through and you know that's what this is. You can define it, you can explain it. You have the knowledge of the creator of that thing, whatever it is, right? We want to get to Sodaye on many things. Just think about that. Does that make sense to everybody? So with me one more time, Giriso. Giriso, Beniso, Boliso, and Sodaye. Those are the 4 levels. Now, let's move on. From there, there's a story. Now, this happened to me as a child. My husband, who was here with me earlier, his mother had a fish tank, just like that one, a little small one. And she had a goldfish in there, and she would feed that fish every day, tenaciously, the same amount of food. It was like her pet, the only pet she had in the house, right? That she would feed it, that goldfish stayed in that bowl for a little while, it stayed the same size. She loved the pet so much till she got you go from that, the rectangular size aquarium, right? And she got one of those, put the goldfish in there, fed it the same amount of food, but the goldfish got bigger. When she put the goldfish in the bigger tank, it didn't stay that small. It started to grow, and it got a little bigger. Finally, she got one of those huge, this is a true story now. She got one of those huge, beautiful tanks. Had it all decorated, because she's going up in the world, getting a little more money. Got a bigger condo and everything nice. She put this nice tank in there. Put that goldfish in the tank. That goldfish, by the time my mother-in-law passed, was as big as a catfish. That's a true story. Now, I was not as Sodaye on understanding that, but that says a lot to me. When I look back, and I'm right here, I kind of want to stop. What does that say to you? What do we learn? What is that? Does that story say anything to you? Anybody?
Environment is the key.
Everybody. Thank you. What were you going to say?
We grow to ask things on the space that we're being through.
And so what did you say?
Environment is the key.
Environment is the key. And everybody can kind of see that, right? So our environment acts on the individuals. Does the fish realize that it's being acted upon? No. The fish just swimming, right? It swims in the little pond, it swims in the big pond. It doesn't understand. But the environment definitely acts on the individual.
Expectation.
Whether they know it or not, right? Expectation, I like that. Okay. Let's move on. I was talking earlier, many of us in here are educators. And I didn't say teachers, I said educators. Because we deal with our children. And educators, because I say these are people who don't just deal with our children. We love our children. We're trying to relay information to them and we want to see them grow and reach their fullest potential like the goldfish. You understand? So then the question becomes, how do our children see themselves? And so in order for me to understand this, every year, I'll give my students a card and I'll ask them, how do you feel about yourself? And I'll ask them to express that on the card. And now children, most of them, if you can get them to talk, they're honest. They'll tell you what they think. Adults won't. By the time we become adults, we have that stuff it's all underneath, it's masked. But students will tell you, and this is what one told me, I need somebody to read that card.
I see myself loving. How I see myself loving me. Do I love myself? No. I think I'm ugly, but I cheer my friends on every day. Especially Tiana. She's my favorite baby mama. I think she's pretty. Mean, nice, anger, nice, friend, family, liar, not liar, R&B, I can't. Rap and R&B.
That's just one 8th grade child. You want to say?
Don't gotta read.
And this was a while ago. We're working on the grammar and everything else. This is like when they first come into us. And this is just to see, we're not dealing with the grammar. What we really want to know is how you feel about yourself. And that says a lot to me.
Self-esteem.
And it's very low at this point. Here we go. There's another one. Somebody read that one for us.
Hungry, double jointed, wannabe, dark skinned, stupid, ugly, useless, high metabolism, likes cats, different, I'm not skinny enough.
The baby at that point could spell metabolism. Understand that. Because he's a very smart kid. But he got a lot of other stuff talking about the things going around in their head, the images and messages they're receiving. Here's another one more. Somebody read that?
Bass player, upset, hated, ugly, crybaby, a talker, hard to tell the truth, hate myself, happy, a try hard, kind, loving, sweet, not open, unlikable, friendly, sad, band lover, football, music lover, caring, weirdo, little darky, hard to tell the truth.
So you see some good stuff and some bad stuff there, right? It's like they want to see themselves in a good light, but that negative information is coming in there. So what words stick out to you on that one, real quick? Hated? Ugly.
Little darky.
Sad.
Hated.
Just keep that in mind. Here we go. So we're dealing with our children and how they see themselves. This is education. We're talking about how do you raise these young people to love themselves fully for who and what they were born to be? How do you turn that around? The Africans, ancients said it takes a village to raise a child. And I know you guys have heard that before because the next president's wife said it, right? And when she said it, that word got to everybody. But here's the question. When they say village, what does that, what image pops in your head and what do you understand? Let's go to Sodaye on that. What does that mean? It takes a village to raise a child.
All together.
And we would agree with that, right? So, okay, still as Sodaye. In the absence of that, because we don't have that, you agree? Because we don't have all these people feeding into the spirit of our children. Because if we did, then the child would be being raised. The child is not being raised. The child is just growing up, right? We agree. So the village would be all those things you just said. People sitting around the community trying to make a safe and secure environment for this young person so they can just grow up and reach their full potential. That neighborhood you're looking at in the middle is in South Africa somewhere. Beautiful, right? That could be the village too. So don't just limit yourself to people sitting around looking impoverished. The village is just what the things you were saying. However, in the absence of that, what we have is the fishbowl, don't we? And our students in the fishbowl, in that environment, that limiting environment, which will not allow them to grow. You see it, even though they don't know it. They're just doing what they do, whatever it is that they're doing. But they are being affected by this negative environment. It takes adults, knowing adults, to fix it. Does that make sense? Knowing adults, right, knowledgeable adults. And I want you all to hear from Brother Malcolm, because this is not new information like I just put it together. The only thing I'm doing is speaking the words of the ancestors and elders, what they have been saying for the longest.
Who taught you, please, who taught you to hate the texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin to such extent that you bleach to get like the white man? Who taught you to hate the shape of your nose and the shape of your lips? Who taught you to hate yourself from the top of your head to the soles of your feet? Who taught you to hate your own kind? Who taught you to hate the race that you belong to? So much so that you don't want to be around each other. No, before you come asking Mr. Muhammad, does he teach hate? You should ask yourself, who taught you to hate being what God
Give
gave
it up for
you?
Brother Malcolm. Way back then, they were telling us the truth way back there. Now he uses the word hate. And we want to talk about that briefly because our children, because we want to have clear communication. I don't want anybody to get confused or lost. What does he really mean by hate? Do our children, are they walking around hating themselves? Or are they just walking around feeling not good about themselves, feeling bad about, or do they hate themselves? You say yes? Speak on that, explain it.
Hatred, every word is an idea, and an idea, to validate any idea, it has to find a manifestation in human behavior. And so we can see the manifestation in human behavior. The best example is verse 48, where black kids enjoy killing each other, shooting each other. You've shown the spiritual bullets, but on verse 48, we can see the physical bullets that the spiritual manifestation has grown into. This is Jordan Camper. Jordan, stand up. He's from Philly. He's on his way to the NBA.
Okay.
This brother, 2 weeks ago, knew a mother and a daughter. That mother's funeral service was yesterday. It was yesterday. From her daughter killing her. So this is a real reality that we're dealing with.
Yes.
Yes, it is hatred. It manifests full blown into human behavior.
It's what comes out of this fishbowl that we're in. It's a love of the other and a hatred of self. And many people would not accept that word. And I want us to make sure we're communicating clearly. Even if someone doesn't feel like they hate themselves, you have no love for yourself, which is why everything about you want to make, and when I say you, I don't mean you, let's talk us. You want to, exactly, please don't make it personal because that's not the spirit from which I come. But we have to understand the fishbowl that we're in. Others have been presented to us as the special ones, the beautiful ones, and so that just leaves us to be the opposite. You don't have to say the opposite of that. If this is the beautiful one, the special one, the pretty one, then I automatically understand that I'm not that, so I'm the other. It's implied. Exactly.
The unspoken language is more powerful than the spoken.
Very good. Thank you. Moving on. So, and what I'm here to say, pretty isn't pretty, and I'm being literal, not rhetorical. I'm saying that this is real, and you have to just understand it for yourself. And how I came to understand it was through my journey, but through this experience. This was at Dean McGee Eye Institute. When I first came to Oklahoma, it was my intent to go. I was going to follow in my mentor's footsteps. That's Dr. Francis Cress Welsing. I was going to get a PhD in biological science. So I was working on the 4th floor at Dean McGee where they deal with eyes. It's the research into the eye. In order to do that, we have to deal with eyes. So, of course, you have to capture the eyes, harvest them rather, and then in science, every time we deal in the lab, we're not going to take some human eyes. We can't do that. So, of course, we deal with animals, and the animals they deal with are mice. And for whatever reason, they always use white mice. So we had this is true. We had these white mice on the 4th floor, and my person at that time, the doctor, was Dr. Lee, and it was our job to get these eyes, right? So we had to kill the mice to do that. And of course, we're humane. This is for science. So we didn't go stab them all like you see in the movies. No, we killed them with gas. And we did this in a dark room, pitch black, no light, just a little red light, right? And we gassed them. The mice are in this vat, and we gassed them. And it's dark. And once we gas these mice, I see this intense blue light shooting off over the room, like no sound, but just an intense blue, like aqua blue. Can you imagine? Shooting around the room. And I was like, what is that? And what would you think that was? Of course. That's what pops in our mind, because that's the information that we have, and your mind can only use the information that you have stored in there. So, of course, we've heard all this kind of stuff. So we went to, that's the spirit of the mice. That's where I went. And then Dr. Lee told me, no, that's not the spirit of the mice. What that is that our eyes work with light. And all during the day, your eyes are absorbing the light. Started with the energy of the sun. Now we got about a lot of artificial light. But they absorb that light, and they use that light to send a message to the brain. That's how we see. When you die, your body can no longer control that light, can't contain it, so it is simply released. Yes, does that make sense? And the reason we saw it is because we were in a what room? Dark room. When this happens during the day, things die, you wouldn't see it. It's released, but you wouldn't see it. You with me? Next, this speaks to the genetics, just the genetics and how it works. Every person or every living thing gets, well, not every living thing, but mammals, us. You get 2 traits or 2 genes, one from your mom, one from your dad, for any trait that we're looking at, right? And that can be dominant or recessive. If it's dominant, you'll see the capital letter. If it's recessive, the lowercase. And then when we put those 2 together, we can determine the percent of offspring that are going to come from this union. That makes sense? So when you see two capital letters, that person or that offspring will get 2 dominant genes. So they will have brown eyes. The one that's dominant and recessive in living things, if you have a dominant gene and the relationship is dominant and recessive, the dominant gene is the only one that is expressed. So wherever you have a capital letter and a lowercase, you're going to get brown eyes. Do you see it? In order for the recessive to show, you have to get 2 recessive genes. Otherwise, it will be masked. So blue eyes are only expressed where you see double A. Do you see it? So in that example right there, 1/4 of the offspring, 1 out of 4, will have blue eyes. Do you understand? And in living things, this is just some information to take with you. Normally, that which is dominant is that which is darker. That's just the way it works. Okay? Moving on. That's an example of the eye, and we talked about the wavelengths of energy that are being absorbed. This is the electromagnetic spectrum. This is visible light. And when every time we look, what you see is the rainbow, because those are certain wavelengths that your eyes can receive. There are other wavelengths out there, but your eyes can't deal with those. So these right here, this ultraviolet, our eyes can't detect that, so you can't see it. Same thing up here, infrared. Those are longer wavelengths. Our eyes can't detect that. Got it? So we can just see the visible range. That's all we use. Conditions for sight. So how do we actually see? In order for you to see something, you need 4 things: a working eye, an object to look at, a clear path between you and the object. Because we've been watching so many Superman movies, people think we can see through walls. We cannot. So in order for you to see anything, there has to be a clear path between you and that thing. Anything that blocks it, you won't see it. And then finally, you need light. In order for you to see anything, light is a part of that process. And this is how it takes place. This is what happens. How we see. The procedure, light shines. The light has to shine on the object, whatever it is you're looking at. Our object in this instance is a flower. That light is then reflected from the object to the eye. And it's like the light is the image of the thing. That's what's sent to the eye, right? Finally, the image of the object enters the brain. Right there. Then, stored information in the brain tells you what you're looking at. You understand? Stored information in the brain is what tells you what you're looking at. The only thing you'll see is the image. And then something, we go back to that sodaye, right? Back to that jiriso, beniso. At what level do you get the definition of this thing and you find out what it is? Bringing all of that together. Raise your hand if you're with me, you follow me. This makes sense, right? Okay, very good. I want to make sure I'm making sense. So the stored information in the brain is what tells you what you're looking at. So, beloved, here's the question. Who is defining the world for us, and what definitions are we storing? That's the question. It makes sense, right? I'm feeling y'all's spirit. I get you getting it. That makes me feel good. I'm being understood. Here we go. The light shines on the image. The image is then reflected to your eye. And your brain tells you what you're looking at. Who is that we're looking at?
Barbie.
And what are the words, the definitions around Barbie?
Beauty standard.
And what is light is right.
You're
All of that. Do you see the problem? Okay, as long as you see the problem, then we're good. There's another one. What's going on right there? To us, especially our children, I've been in class to see our children playing in another student's hair and just looking at it so longingly, like they wish that was their hair. And I feel so sad for them because they have no love and no appreciation for their own hair. And I know that's a journey that we take, especially as women, because when I started to grow my locks, I'll tell you the truth, I told myself I had to fall in love with my hair. And I would sit and play with it and just touch it and come to understand this is the kind of hair I was born with and this is good hair. So I had to redirect that image for myself.
interpretation.
And that's a process. It's not easy, but it's a process. Yes, I'm going to remind you guys of one more thing. You remember the movie in Malcolm X?
Yeah.
When the first time he gets his perm? And when he gets that first perm and he goes in the mirror and he straightens his hair, I'm gonna ask you the question, did it look better to you once it was straightened?
No.
So to most people it does. And because it becomes what you're used to seeing. And when he straightens it, you'd be like, because that's what you're used to seeing. And it becomes what you're familiar with and what you're used to seeing. Not saying that it's good hair, but it becomes what you're used to seeing. So you understand how you have to that's not a word, but you have to retrain yourself to see yourself, right?
Right.
All right, here we go. Which is why we say pretty isn't pretty. It's simply what you've been trained to see. I'm sorry, in order to free yourself, you must see yourself. I'm checking my time. Oh, that's good timing. So, lest you think that this is just Miss Turner and I'm up here spouting information from myself, I am not. The Nguzo Saba, or the 7 principles, are principles that were created by a group of folks like us who came to the conclusion a long time ago that if we were to live by those 7 principles, we could clear up all the problems we have in our community. Now, looking at them, they're not easy to do, but that's the goal.
That's a start.
That's a plan, is what it is. Yes. And at the end of every year, there's a group of us, we get together and we celebrate just the idea of trying to have lived by the 7 principles for the year. We celebrate that. That should be celebrated. And I want to walk you through them. Raise your hand if you've heard of the 7 principles. All right. So the first one, that's Nguzo Saba. Umoja is unity, meaning we need unity in our community to strive for and maintain unity in the family, community, nation, and race. We got to do that. It's not against anybody else, but it's to protect, to create the right size fishbowl for ourselves. Yes? Kujichagulia, which is self-determination. We would watch this. We will define ourselves, name ourselves, create for ourselves, and speak for ourselves. So important to what we're talking about right now. We have to define beauty for ourselves, and we have to see it in ourselves. That hopefully that makes sense to everybody, right? That's not a racial thing. That's just, everybody needs to do that. And we need to do it for ourselves. Kujichagulia, say that with me. Ujima, which is collective work and responsibility. That's one of the things we need to do as a community. That's work together. All of these make sense. Ujima'a, cooperative economics. We need to work with one another. Nia, we must have a purpose. That purpose must be a collective purpose, something we want to do for all of us together. We got to get rid of the individual, this pull yourself up by your own bootstraps. We got to start to see each other, because it's hard to be seen in this society, isn't it? If you're not walking around and if you got money, one thing we see is money, but just to be yourself, people out there can't even hardly see you, which is sad. Kumba, creativity. Whatever we do, we're going to have to be creative about it. And finally, faith. Pause right there. When we say faith, people automatically go to one place. But what do we want to have faith in? Faith in self first, yes. Somebody said each other, yes. And faith in what else? Faith in self, each other. What about the village? Have faith in the village that we're going to build, right? And these have to become ideas that you have in your head for them to ever become manifest. If we don't even start to think like this, it'll never happen. And it may seem like it's very hard to do, very difficult way out there, but it's not. Once we start, as a group of people, once we start to work on a problem, we'll solve that problem. Exactly. We just haven't set our minds to it. Exactly. We haven't set out to do that yet, but we will. That's the Nguzo Saba. And the Sphinx is up there because it's close to my heart. That's an image out of ancient Egypt, which was, of course, black folks doing their thing along the Nile. And that speaks to me and says, you must use your human mind to control your animal nature. That's the Sphinx. I would write that down. You must develop your human mind to control your animal nature. The animal nature can be wild and can want to get loose and can want to do things it shouldn't do. But if we develop our children from an early age, they'll never get loose. So we have to create that society. I don't know if you guys have realized this, but you know we're living in the time of the awakening. Have you felt it? Enlightenment. They call it the time of enlightenment. And we're actually about to go, in the course of time, in the great year, if you heard of the great year, we're about to go into the age of Aquarius. Have you heard that? Yeah. We're moving into the age of Aquarius. They call that the age of enlightenment. And really, our purpose, our goal in this age is to reveal the truth and reverse the brainwashing. Everybody has to take on that mission. And I would hope and pray that you all would take this information, share it with whom you know, everybody you know, because it needs to come from more than one voice than just mine. I'm a lone voice, but us together, we can get this information out there. Finally, you were given a mirror. You were given a mirror. Everybody's given a mirror, right? Do me one favor, take that mirror. We're almost done. Look in that mirror. If you don't have it, do it when you get home. That's your affirmation to yourself. Look at yourself. Tell yourself that you are special and loved just as you were born, without any alteration, without any adjustment. We were born perfect, just like the Creator made us. And on that note, we're done. How about that?